Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is really exciting. I am about to try out these gouache paints that were sent to me by Sui, a Korean illustrator who made these gouache paints herself. I am so incredibly excited because I can already see how amazing the color options are, and so we're gonna try these out together. And after we do the swatches, we're also gonna paint a little painting with it. So the package they sent me looks like it's two sets. One is of these big 15 milliliter tubes, and while the other one is a 12 color set of what I think consists of more expected primary looking colors. They're still very different and special, but they do look completely different from the bigger tubes. So we're gonna swatch these out right now, and I'm swatching them with my other colors, and we're starting off with the greens. This one is just called green, but it's already so gorgeous. Also see it compared to the other greens in my palette, and there's nothing quite like it in my collection. And then this one is called lamb's ear, and it's another gorgeous green. Honestly, all of the greens in here are my favorite out of all of my collection. This one, Docto Evergreen, is probably my #1 favorite green of all. It's more of a grayish green that I just think is so special. And the last one in the green collection is just lime. I do say that this one dried a little bit different from the rest. It's less matte than the rest. But yeah, these are what the colors look like next to the tubes. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of a difference between the colors on the tubes and when the paints dry, but I think that's understandable when you're working independently, and I figure it could be hard to replicate these beautiful colors in print. And so the next colors that we have is the yellow, which there's only one. This one is baby yellow. This I think is where the set is most lacking, just because there's only one yellow in the set, and it almost doesn't look yellow. It's sitting very close to white, but color in the yellow family in the set. And then the next ones that we have are the peaches and the pink. The peach is gorgeous. I think all of these colors are beautiful. The baby pink is, I think, a better pink than what you would imagine in your head if you think of baby pink. It's a little bit more dusty. It's the same with Rusty Rose. I just really love how all of these colors lean more to being unexpected and beautiful and different from a lot of the colors that you would get in bigger sets. I think the only color that is close to a primary color is this red, but it's still a warm leaning red. And the last one is this rosy color. It's exactly the color I would think about when I think of that word rosy. I just love how they were able to include this color in this set. I do think there's maybe a little bit more pinks than other colors, but yeah, it's a change that I think is very welcome. The blue, just like the green, is different from a basic blue that you would think of. I think 90 is closer to a more basic blue, but both of them are gorgeous. And then we have lilac, which is this beautiful color that is very similar to my bellflower from Holbein, which is one of my favorite colors from the set. So it's really great that this small set has that. The one that's called brown is very warm. I actually really like this brown because it's closer to green, and I use that in my portraits. And then the last one is the darkest color in the set, which is chocolate. This one is the dark and neutral brown, which I think just really rounds out the whole set together. There is also a beige and a white. They're very basic colors, and they actually feel very close to the Holbein whites in my set. But I wanted to show you guys what these colors look like compared to the ones that I already have in my collection. So for the color blue, this one's just named blue. It's actually not close to any of the blues I have in my collection. The lilac is very similar to my bellflower from Holbein and the heliotrope from Paul Rubens, but I wouldn't buy heliotrope. I would recommend the lilac 100%. And you can see here the red is very close to my flame red, which is my favorite red. And the peaches and the pink are very different from what I have in my own collection. You see the Jesseline a little bit more dusty than the ones that I have, and a little bit darker too, which I really like. So now that I've talked about the color options, what we're now going to do is make a little painting with the colors that we have. I've put it in my beloved little flower palette, and we're just gonna start it and paint it in the way that I would normally paint my gouache. First impressions with the colors in the set, I was actually very scared that I would have a hard time making a painting feel complete with just the colors that I have, just because there's a lot of pastel dusky colors in there, which I think are gorgeous, but they don't really come out so much from my portrait paintings. So I was a little bit nervous about that, but when I painted this one, it just felt complete. I think maybe I subconsciously chose a photo with that was a lot of blue, which I just love the blue in this set, and that I could already see in the set. So maybe that's why it was so easy to make this particular painting. But I actually also really loved using the dusky colors for the skin tones over here. So you can see while I'm painting the shadows right now, it's a lot of lilac with a little bit of the brown and the rosy colors. So when we're starting out, these colors could look too dark and unnatural, but when paired with the peaches, the baby yellows, and just the other more light, conventionally skin tone colors, they just blended together really well and mixed with each other really well. With the colors that they chose, I'm actually really glad that they went the direction that they did go on, because when you're first starting out with a new company, you really don't want to compete with the bigger brands, because a lot of people will just go for those bigger brands if you're just going with basic primary colors. So I love that they went a different direction in the colors that they were choosing, and I would absolutely recommend this for people who already have a basic set, because these colors are great as an addition to more basic sets if you paint a lot more of a range in the kind of subjects that you are painting. I do think if you don't already have a gouache collection, it could be hard to build up from what they have, just because there's not that many basic colors. I actually think that this set would be complete with just one lemon yellow and another maybe ultramarine, because this red is already beautiful, and those would just mix in with the other colors to make a more complete, comprehensive set. But for me, because I already do have my own collection, I just love all of these colors. I love that even with the many colors that I already have and from different brands, they still manage to make colors that feel very special to me even, and make colors that I would associate with them and not with other brands. And so I really love that. And the color options, I think, is actually one of my favorite things about this set. I also want to give a shout out to the packaging in these paints, and I'm so sad that I lost all of the footage of me unboxing these. I don't know what happened, but I was so disappointed to not find it in my files. I unboxed this a while ago and I couldn't try it out because I was on break for a few weeks, and I just don't know what happened to those now, and I'm so sad about that. But I do want to say, since this is an independent company and it's mostly run, I think, by just one person, the packaging is one of the more important things. And yeah, if you really enjoy that kind of thing like I do, it was really great how they packed these. There are also line works in there if you want to just try out the paints and you can paint those. Yeah, they really did go above and beyond when it came to the packaging. I'm even in love with the color of the bigger tubes, which is this dusty pastel pink. There's actually not a replica of this in the set. It looks very close to baby pink and rusty rose, but it's a lot lighter. When rusty rose and baby pink dry, they're a lot darker than the one on the tube. But yeah, this pink tube, I love this more than the small ones. But again, that's just packaging, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But if you do enjoy that kind of thing, I think that that was a great experience as well. So now that I've talked about how much I love the color options and the packaging, the last thing I want to talk about is how good these paints actually are. Since I can't really talk about the light fastness, this is a very young company, so I don't think they've tested that out so much. I will give an update if they have, but this is mostly just first impressions. And the first thing that I just want to mention is how smooth and creamy these paints are. They actually feel very similarly to the two colors that I have of my Winsor & Newton gouache, but they feel really similarly to those in the way that they're very creamy, they're very pigmented, but they're also not as thick as my Holbein gouache. Maybe there are some colors that came out thicker out of the tubes, and so they do feel like my Holbein gouache in that way, but most of them I think is in that consistency of the Winsor & Newton, where it's just ready to paint with out of the tubes. I do still like very thick gouache because I could always add more water to them and make them be more workable. And since I work a lot with thick paints, just like this painting, I'm mostly just laying colors next to each other. I'm not really layering them so much. So when I work that way, I like very thick gouache, and there are colors in here that I think is close to that, and they are mostly in the 12 color set. That's just what I can say about the consistency. They feel very similarly to the gouache paints that I already have and love. Another big thing about them is how much pigment it feels like is on them. It honestly, the lighter colors, I always have a hard time replicating them when I'm working with more affordable gouache. This one isn't actually affordable, but I'm sitting on the fence of where to compare this to because they do feel like artisan paints, but it's hard for me to compare them to bigger brands that have been in the business for a much longer time that they have. And so I'm just gonna say that it's always hard for me to get very light colors that don't feel like they're chalky or that the white is overpowering everything. I think because there's so many pastel colors in here is that when I was painting her skin tones, it just felt amazing. There's not a part of her skin where I felt like I added too much white or that I made the colors look gray. All of the colors on her skin just looks like they're glowing, even the ones that are hit by the sun. I just really enjoyed painting the lighter parts of this painting so much. When it came to adding the darker accents of the piece, which is mostly on her hair, the darker colors on her hair and the warmer colors there, compared to most of the painting, which is a lot of blue, made me really appreciate the chocolate so much, the color chocolate, because I thought that I was gonna miss a black in this set and it didn't really feel like it. Just that color in itself felt like it was dark enough, and also if I had used black, I feel like it would have been too overpowering, and so in this particular painting, the chocolate was just what I needed to complete the full picture. So first impressions with this paint, I loved everything about it. This is just the first impressions, but what I can say now while I was painting this is that it didn't feel any different from the gouache that I have that I already love. It feels like I'm still using my Holbein colors, and it still feels like I'm still using my Winsor & Newton colors. And those are two of my favorite gouache brands. Even when I paint with other brands that I think are just as expensive, like the Mayberry gouache, it feels different. I noticed that it's not the same as the other gouache that I already am more accustomed to, that I already love. I do have one gouache paint that I wish I didn't add at all in this swatch book, and that's my Paul Rubens gouache. Those ones I just can't recommend at all in any way. But yeah, it's really nice that a very new company is making paints that at least feel very similarly to the big boys in the industry, and I just really love that. So if these colors draw you in as much as they did to me, check the description and go support a newer company. I know that as soon as they add more colors in their collection, I will be getting them too. But yeah, that is it for my review on the Sui Gouache. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you guys for watching. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me, and I will be seeing you guys again soon.